Twilight was flying with its reddish wings through the circular temple over the cliff. Alko, a young man in his early 20s, was there, leaning against one of the columns, his eyes closed, turned toward the sunset. The sunset over the ocean. He was waiting for a change in the etheric winds. Etheric winds are a type of wind that can't be noticed by normal people. But for Alko, a magician, noticing this wind was as easy as hearing thunder among the clouds, or like smelling a flower. Twilight is the time when etheric winds come by more often. And he wasn't wrong. He noticed the very obvious change in the air, a vibration that caressed his skin, a pulsation that expanded his chest outward. A very good sensation. He loved it. He smiled. "Lindon Nastor!" he shouted. And just when he finished this phrase, a hawk materialized over his right arm. A big, majestic hawk. "How it's been, pretty girl?" The bird shrieked and softly pecked Alko's cheek several times. "Yes, I'm also happy to see you again. I got something for you." From his bag he took out what seemed like a small orange stone and gave it to the hawk. The bird swallowed it and shrieked and moved left and right over his arm in joy. "I'm sure Orun doesn't feed you properly, he's so oblivious." From the same bag he took a yellowish scroll and tied it carefully to the bird's right leg. "Bring this map to Orun, as usual. Be safe, my pretty girl." "Orun, Amello!" The bird shrieked for the last time, spread its wings, and disappeared within the etheric wind. Orun also waited until twilight to do his job. Beforehand, he surrounded the old temple with a thin red thread with golden bells. Those big old trees were good vessels to create a stable, etheric barrier. Now he was waiting, silently, in front of the temple, and naked from the waist up. The lotus posture, eyes closed. But he was not meditating. Not even relaxing, just focused, very focused. The etheric wind started blowing and the bells started making a sound that exactly matched the frequency of that place, or to be more precise, the frequency of the power that had inhabited that place for centuries. An abandoned temple built over an etheric vein, but the power had been there much longer before the temple existed. The bells were calling with their soft, tingling voice, and a presence started to fill the temple, a very ancient presence. Its old power was gone. It was very weak. He still could feel the echo of its great old power, but it was just that, an echo, a faint shadow. Attracted by the bells, it came out of the temple. He could see it without opening his eyes. As he expected, it was a white fox with 7 tails, or at least that used to be the case. Now he was all grey and old, and all but 2 tails were gone. When the fox reached the thread, Orun opened his big and brown eyes wide towards it. "Inomale Kaldus!" The red thread that until now was hanging on the trees tightened around the spirit, trapping it. Desperately, it tried to come out. It tried to change its shape, but this was not a common thread. This was a magical thread that prevented transformation. It was made to trap spirits. But the thread was breaking. Orun knew he had to act fast. He took out his card deck from his bag, Then he spread the cards swiftly on the grass in front of the struggling spirit. A deck with 33 cards, one for every rune. He spread them in 11 different groups, one for each magical path. The thread was at the brink of breaking. The spirit then would attack him. It had happened before and it was not pretty. Even weak spirits can cause havoc when they are under threat. The spirit's vibration, enhanced by its painful struggle, aligned with one of the groups, the dimensional path. And now show me your card. Sulla dayo, za! The vibration from the spirit connected to his fingers, and his hand descended over one of the cards, the Guardian. At the same moment, the fox broke the red thread and jumped over him to attack, his jaws open. Orun took the Guardian card, used the spirit's rage and threw it at him. The card stopped in front of the fox, floating in the air, and started to rotate fast. Confusion. This made the fox stop in mid-air. 7 seconds of confusion. He had counted it after so many encounters in the past. He took a blank card from his coat's pocket, threw it toward the Guardian's card, and got attached behind it. Got you. 3 seconds left. He took his dagger and pierced his own chest with it. And now the worst part of it all. Cold steel, the intense pain. He was dying. He could never get used to this. Never. But shortly after, the warm etheric energy filled his chest. 1 second left. He screamed, En nasun kaldus! Around the wound in his chest, a tattoo appeared with that light blue color, a spiral at the center, and from it, 11 flames spread out, and over the top of each flame, 3 sparkles. The spirit screamed in silence, struggled from the last time, and then it became a ball of light. The ball was sucked in many strands by the blank cards behind the Guardians. A beautiful and young fox with 7 tails was drawn on the card, and under it, its true name, Kaldus. Finally, the new card entered through Orun's tattoo and disappeared. It was done. Orun collapsed on the floor, his heart racing, trembling from head to toe. Breath, breath, relax. He imagined the young fox running free through the ether, powerful once again. It was done. It was nighttime. All the stars were flickering beautifully over the small inn. Orun was sitting on his room's terrace, drinking a big jar of beer, his legs over a round table. The satisfaction of the job done was his favorite part of the job, those short moments of peace and silence. At the inn's tavern down under, he could hear the songs from a band of bards, violin, flute, guitar. He hated being surrounded by people and the tavern's noise, but loved listening to the mulled music and the clapping from it. All his life had been like this. He loved being alone, but he enjoyed the long-distance company. Once he finished the jar of beer, he followed the habitual routine. He charged his pipe with herb of skull, and while smoking, he spread the 33 cards over the table. The combination of beer and skull put him into the perfect state to ask the cards anything he wanted. Advice and insights and possible future events. Stories would start popping up into his head, unexpected connections, surprising combinations. This was true magic. Imagination comes from the ether. It's the purest form of magic. He saw the cards interacting with each other. Tonight, there was a story between 2 cards. The Guardian and the Creative Genie cards were both traveling through a dark wood. The Guardian, a warrior with golden armor and a lance, was always very cool and sober, even in dangerous situations. But tonight, he was unusually restless. In front of him, the Creative Genie, A winged girl with her hair made of starlit water was looking around, looking for something or somebody. She was normally very playful and fun to be around, but tonight she was unusually serious and worried. Orun also felt restless and worried. What is happening? But when he asked this, the whole scene disappeared. A mist covered it all. He sighed. Here it went his cozy and relaxing night. I guess it's time to open the scroll and take a look at it before I go to sleep. He received the scroll from his brother Alko. Once he had finished his job, the magic hawk arrived with the scroll tied on her right leg. The worst timing, as always. When he didn't give anything to eat to the bird, she pecked him violently on the cheek and went away. That damn bird! He caressed his hurt cheek, and then he took the cards back to the deck and opened the scroll over the table. It was a map of the region he was at right now. He saw all the sacred places marked with dots of 3 different colors. Most of them were black, which meant that the Cabal had already been there and stole the power from it. Once the Cabal stole the power, that place became sullied, cursed. And somebody had to clean them before a dark portal would open and attract negative, terrible beings. But this was not his job. Then there were some light blue dots, the ones Orun had liberated, the ones where he bound the power to a card. And finally, the new place to liberate, a place where the power was so weak that it was ready to bind to a card. And this also meant that the Cabal had its eyes over it. It was marked with a green spot, in a valley situated in the northern mountains of Orun. He had never been there, and he thought he would never have to go. He had heard that the powers there were still strong. The Cabal was spreading its influence faster than he thought. People were forgetting their old gods and spirits. Imagination and the ether were waning everywhere. He rolled the scroll back and sighed again. First the cards, and now this. There was no way he could sleep that night. He was a night owl, and now he had too many things to think about. He needed another jar of beer, that was for sure. He got up from his chair and stretched his body. At this very moment, he felt all his body's hair stand on end. He looked at the sky. A big full moon was shining over the small town and the forest. It was strange. He hadn't noticed the moon until that moment. And then, just in front of the full moon, he saw reddish leaves swirling in the air. Autumn-like leaves. It's winter. The leaves became sparkles, then flames, and from the flames a young girl appeared. She was jumping from the flames toward him. Her hair was silver, and silver was the dagger that she held in her right hand. Her silver eyes were wide open like 2 full moons, and a deep hatred in them. Hatred. The dagger penetrated Orun's chest. She grinned, her face just an inch from his. Her eyes were as cold as the dagger in his chest. Die, traitor,